Well, good morning, my student physicians. Today is a beautiful day. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about how to study in med school and what I've been doing. I got quite a few requests, especially from one viewer. I told her that I would send out this video a long time ago and I haven't yet, and so that is what I've been working on. Ooh, you guys haven't checked this out yet. Look at this. I picked this up a couple months ago. Ooh, okay, the Honda CBR 600RR. Beautiful. Let's get out of my license plate. Oh, got in there anyway. But just a beautiful bike. And then of course the Marrow. Always gotta have my Marrow. But and then if you guys have any, things that you do, because obviously the things that I'm doing, but I'm going to talk about a lot about like active studying and preparing, which I think will fit across all the same boards about studying styles. Is about how to learn a vast amount of information, how to get it engraved in your brain. If you think there's something that you disagree with what I say, or you think there's something better that works for you, please leave it down in the comments below, because like I said, Student Physician Network is a big family for all of us, and we're just trying to better, because something that works for me might not work for you, but something that works for you might work for somebody else. So please leave that down in the comments below. If you're coming by the channel for the first time, hit that subscribe button. I highly recommend it because, like I said, big family. Well, let's get to it. Well guys, here it is. The things that you do in So, some of the things I wanted to talk to you about is how we're going to get to studying, effectively. And some of you guys may think that you have this great system and it couldn't work any better, but even I had this great system in undergraduate, and it got me through. It got me into med school. I mean, how bad of a study habit could have been? It got me here, right? Well, I was actually blown away by how inefficiently I was studying, and we're going to talk about how to study more effectively and how to study and get the information in your brain so that you can pull it out when you need it, like, for example, during the exam. So let's talk about that. The first thing I want you guys to do is I want you to pause this video and write down all of the ways that you guys study. This is how do you prepare for a test, whether it's flashcards or rewriting your notes, or studying the night before, previewing your lecture notes, or rereading the class notes, kind of talking it through somebody. Whatever it is, I want you to write it down. Pause this video, take a couple minutes. It's important that you write this down because we're going to start checking off bad habits as we go. And then you can look at your list and say, hey, I'm doing some good things. Or you can say, why are those so bad? And we'll hit each and every one of those for why they're bad. So go ahead and take a couple minutes and pause. So some of the bigger bad habits I want you guys to cross off right now is, and this might be an obvious one, procrastinating till the night before. And you will not believe how often I did this in undergrad. I mean, it's just astonishing that you can go your entire undergrad career and procrastinate till the night before. I've done it many times. Rewriting and rereading your notes. Cross that habit out right now. To an extent, writing your stuff and reading it is good for a first time because you want it to get it into your own words, but just copying it down over and over and over again is not going to get it in your head. Trust me. And we'll go over why and what is a more effective way to get that in just a second. Only looking over it once. So if you have your material, you went to class, you got it, and then say a couple days later you look at it again, and then you look at it the night before the exam, it's not good enough. You have to be exposed to this material as many times as possible. And this method I'm going to be talking to you guys about next is will tell you how you can get exposed to this material to get it stuck in your head a lot faster than you would think it would. And it seems like it would be a lot of work, but it's actually not. So we'll get to that in a second. Here's a good one. Now, this also ties into this method that I'm going to be talking about, and it's going into a lecture cold turkey. So if you guys have ever gone to a lecture, and sometimes in undergrad it's kind of hard to preview for a lecture, but if you can, if your professor uploads your PowerPoint ahead of time, look at them before you go to class. And that is a big key to getting that information stuck in your head the first time. Trust me, it'll make sense once I start discussing this plan, okay? So look at your list. I mentioned 4 bad habits that you need to cross out right now because they are just simply not going to do the trick. The next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is OneNote. So if you have, many of you probably take notes on pen and paper, or you take notes however you want to do it, printing out your slides and then writing on them. If you have never discovered OneNote, I highly recommend checking it out. So you can do it on your laptop. I use a tablet in med school. I have this Galaxy Tab S3. That's what I'm doing my notes on for you guys. So OneNote is a great tool to use during med school. So let me go ahead and show you this. So what I do is I'll preview the lecture and I'll download the PowerPoint from the lecture the night before, and I'll upload it to OneNote, and then I will take notes on the PowerPoint itself with OneNote. So let me load this up for you guys a little bit. Here is one of my notes from my medical genetics class that I was taking here. Okay, here we go. Look at this. Okay, so here are the PowerPoints. As you can see, the PowerPoint's right here, and these are my handwritten notes. So if I zoom in right here, which if I get my hand off it, so this syndrome's Noonan syndrome, and you can see I can just write on it. So if I take my pen, I can just write whatever I want on it. You write it. That's a great way to get it down the first time. Then you can go back and then translate to your notebook. Okay, so get OneNote, get a tablet. This is going to be a necessity in med school. So if you don't need it for now for undergrad, because you can probably get by without it, but for medical school, get a tablet, get OneNote, do it. You can use this on any Android tablet or an iPad. A lot of people use the iPad Pro. iPad Pro is a little bit out of my budget range, so I got the Galaxy Tab S4, which is really nice. It's really competitive. It's just really, it's similar quality to the iPad Pro. It's just a little bit smaller, not as mainstream, not as expensive. So I would recommend that. Get OneNote. It's great. You just take notes right on the PowerPoint itself. So why don't we go ahead and get into the method of how to study and how to be efficient at studying. If there's something you guys don't disagree, or you guys disagree on with, or there's something that you think would work better, please leave a comment down below, because like I said before, Student Physician Network is a family, and if something works for me that doesn't work for you, something that worked for you might work for somebody else. So please leave a comment about what you do down in the comment section below. So I'm gonna coin this phrase, and I'm gonna call it the review method. I'm certainly not the one that invented this method. It's kind of out there. I'm just gonna give it a name. It's the mini review method. Let's just call it that. Okay. So this is a way to get 3 exposures to a lecture within the first day of getting that material. Okay. So the first way you're gonna get exposed to this is you're going to preview the lecture. Now you're like, DJ, why would I want to study for something that I haven't even lectured on? Well, you're not going to study it. This is an easy way. This shouldn't take you more than 5 to 10 minutes per hour lecture tops. So if you have your PowerPoint, what I want you to do is I want you to get on that PowerPoint for the lecture that's going to happen, and you need to be really on top of this, because if you get behind, then there's no point in doing this review method. So the first thing I want you to do is get the PowerPoint, go through it. Now you're going to write 8 statements or 8 questions about this PowerPoint so that you can create a roadmap in your head about where the lecture is going. So if we're talking about, let's say, the citric acid cycle, and they start with, well, what is energy? What is ATP? Then it starts to go in with substrates. Then it introduces the citric acid cycle, and then it introduces what the products of the citric acid cycle, and then it introduces where those cycles go. Now you have a roadmap that says, okay, it starts with what ATP is, it goes into different molecules, it goes into the cycle that creates ATP, it goes into what that cycle produces, and then it goes into how those products can create ATP. So now you have a roadmap. And when you write those things out, you don't necessarily have to answer them, but I can get to that after you go to the lecture. But now you have a roadmap to where this lecture is going to go. Now when you go to lecture, you're going to say, oh, I've seen this already. So that goes into the next exposure. When you go to lecture or you watch the videotape, because I know some people don't go to lecture, which is fine because I personally don't. There'll be another video on that another day. But going to the lecture, that's your second exposure. That is when you take your notes. That is when you write any questions, ask any questions, and yeah, that's basically it. Just go to lecture, take notes. That's your second exposure. And then immediately after the lecture, this is kind of an optional step, but I want you to try to remember as many things as you can about that lecture. So go back to your questions or your statements, and then try to fill in all those blanks off the top of your head, so that way you can say that you have gotten already 3 exposures to that material. Okay, now the next very important part, which would be either your 4th exposure if you did the optional post-lecture review, your 4th exposure is going to be within 24 hours of that lecture. Now this is when you're going to go very strenuous, and this is when you're going to get really down into the nitty-gritty of the material and ask any questions, make any notes. This is when you're going to transcribe the material from the lecture into your own words, into concise statements. Now, that doesn't mean leave out anything that will, like, oversimplify. Do not oversimplify this material, because you want to be in the nitty-gritty, because if they ask a very specific question, you want to be able to answer that question. So, transcribe. Write it down in your own very concise words. Leave a lot of room for your other answers, because you're going to come back to that eventually. So now if you think about it, you already previewed the lecture, you went to a lecture, you either optionally looked it over after class, and you previewed it within 24 hours. You've seen that material 4 times. That should be really well in your brain by that point, okay? That should be pretty good in your brain. Now, within the next couple of days, you're going to come back to that material, and you are going to, I'd say this is 2 to 3 days tops. You're going to come back and you're going to try to add 5 more statements to whatever you've just written, any diagrams you've drawn, any pathways you've drawn. You're going to add 5 more statements to it, or make it a little bit more detailed to get some more information and relate it. You want to constantly relate to this information to other things. So now you're starting to create a web that you can remember this. Now that's your 5th exposure. You remember, you went to preview, you went to lecture, you reviewed the lecture, and then you got really deep in nitty-gritty. There's 4, and now you're previewing it again 5 times. You've seen this material 5 times, and you've put in little to no work on it. Okay, now comes the weekend. This is by far a very important part. On the weekend, you should be reviewing all of the material for that entire unit over again. Now you've reached a 6th. You've reviewed it 6 times. There's no reason you should miss any questions on this. You reviewed it 6 times. But when you're going over this material, you're not just reading it and you're not just rewriting it. You're constantly quizzing yourself. And we'll get into that. I'll get into how to get that material into your head in a successful way to do it. Okay. Okay. Now let's get into what is very important for your studying. So like I said, rewriting and rereading is not good. Throw that habit out right now. What is good is I would recommend the app called Anki Web, ANKIWEB. And what you can do is you can type flashcards on this thing. It's kind of like Quizlet. Type flashcards on the internet, and then you can get them right to your phone, and then you want to be constantly quizzing yourself. So it'll give you so many flashcards, and then it'll set them aside each day. And now it's an entire other video. So flashcards are a good way to review. Actively quizzing yourself. You want to be constantly quizzing yourself. A good way that I like to review material after I'm reviewing it is I'll grab some markers, and I'll grab a whiteboard, and I'll try to quiz myself to see what I can remember about this specific topic. And then if I'm forgetting something, then I'll look back into my notes and then fill that information in as I'm going. You want to constantly actively quiz yourself, because active learning is what's going to make you stick. If you're just rereading your notes, you're passively learning. You're wasting time. You might as well just go turn on your Xbox, go play Fortnite, or go hang out with the girls, whatever. You might as well be doing that. The other good thing about this method is it kind of correlates with the spacing effect, the spacing effect. So 5 hours over a week of review is 4,000 times better than 5 straight hours the night before an exam. You are not going to remember half of the stuff. So if you space it out over a long period of time, you will learn it faster. You will be less stressed come exam time, and it's just a better method. I mean, let me know if you've perfected the night before study sesh, because I would love to know how to cram for an exam successfully, especially in med school, because trust me, I would love to just hang out all week and not do it, because in med school you're going to have to use this method. You're going to have to study every single night, and if you don't, you're going to fail out. And that's just the brutal truth. Okay? So now I want to get to the organizing part, because all of this is not possible unless you are organized, okay? And this kind of comes back to why I created this video for my subscriber E_K_D. This one's for you. I know it's been a couple months, and I promised I would get this out. So here it is. You want to be organized. I want you to link your Google Calendar to your cell phone. I'm actually recording on my cell phone, so I can't show you on my cell phone, but I'll show you on my tablet. I'll show you. So on my phone, I have my Google Calendar, just like this, and I put all of my classes for the entire year. So, so as you can see, here's September. Here's my classes. It'll show you by the day. So there's my lecture schedule. This is actually my school provides us this schedule, but for those of you who are undergrad, you can also just put, because your classes stay the same throughout, I'm guessing, please go and put this in, so that way if you look forward, you can always see what classes you need to do, and that way you can't make any conflicting things. And then I want you to put in your designated times that you're going to study. That way, when it does come time, you can't say no, because you scheduled that time, and you're more willing to follow through with that plan if you actually have it written down or actually have a reminder for it in your calendar. You're more likely to do that. So that's how I stay organized. And then it also comes back to OneNote. So let me get back onto OneNote. So if you look at OneNote, here's this lecture. Here are all of my lectures. Here are all my lectures. Okay, comes in. Here's my notebook. Here are my different sections. So fundamentals 2. This is all my classes that I had for this exam, and then you can just see them, all my lectures by chronological order, which ones I did first versus which ones I did to the end. This is a great way to stay organized with your notes. And I know some professors don't do it, but you can always put in a blank page. So if I go over here, I can push new page, and then I can always start taking blank notes. I don't have to have the PowerPoint. So those of you who take pencil or paper pencil notes, this is a great way. So I can go to view, and then you like to see your rule lines or whatever. I can put in my rule lines, and now I have notebook paper style notes, which is a great way to take notes. So, student position network rules. Well, guys, that's all I had for you today. If you're not a part of the family, smash that subscribe button right in the face, because we want you to be a part of this family so that we can grow as a community, because we're going to build off of each other. And that's exactly what I want for this channel, is so that people can come from all over and discuss and become better students and try to learn from one another. So hit that subscribe button. If there's something I talked about that you disagreed with, or that you liked, or there's something that you do that's different than what I was talking about, please subscribe down below. Don't forget to share this video. Student Physician out.